Hey friends, um, it's Thursday afternoon, December 30th, 2021. Um, I just got back from my week-long vacation, which is my last vacation this year. I took a lot of vacations this year, spent a lot of money, but this last vacation was with my dad and brothers, so I didn't really have to spend any money, which is very nice. Anyway, there's 2 days left in the year. Um, I work tomorrow, and I've just been kind of getting some chores done. And I feel really good today, really calm, content. I'm just happy to be home, happy to spend time with my cats. But yeah, that's my vibe right now. But I was cutting my fingernails very randomly, just cutting my fingernails. But then I started thinking about these questions again. And I have time to answer them today. And instead of, I was thinking I would do them after all my stuff was done. But I have a lot that I want to do, and I'm excited to do it, which is cool. But instead of thinking about these questions and how I was going to answer them, I was trying to stop myself from doing that because I don't want to have these crafted answers. So I figured I would just do this as soon as I could, which was as soon as I was finished cutting my fingernails. Um, but yeah, just to elaborate on that a little bit, I just want to treat this more or less the same way that you all have been having to do it and will be doing it, which is I don't tell you these questions ahead of time, I just ask them kind of just like a conversation, but not a real conversation because it's one-sided because it's supposed to be. But what I mean by that is I just don't want to have these crafted responses because there's no way that you could have them. And while these are things that have been on my mind a lot lately, they're really just ideas. They're kind of like these abstract ideas or shapes or emotions in my head um, that I know the general topic of, but I don't know exactly how I think about them definitively, which I guess is kind of the whole reason why I'm just so interested to hear what the people I have already interviewed or the people that I will be interviewing, you, you're in either of those categories right now, that's hearing this, but I just want to kind of help further my thoughts on these. Yeah, anyway, sorry for this long intro, but yeah, okay. I think I'm just going to get started now. I think that's the easiest way to do it. First question. Oh, sorry, I'll say my name and stuff first. My name is. I am 25 years old. I use he, him, his pronouns. Um, and other identifying words or labels that I would attribute to myself would be lover, observer, appreciator, and speaker. I think those are the only ones that come to my mind right away. I think those are very key about myself. First question, how did we meet? This one is not really applicable because however we met was however you answered the question. I can't do this because I'm sending this to, I don't know, 20 or so different people. So we'll skip that one. You'll know how we met. I think I know some of the times when I've interviewed people already, I ask this question and then I'm like, well, how did we even meet? Like if it's through work or something, I know that we met through work, but I can't remember the exact way. Anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter anyway. So on to question 2. What are the things that you try and do every day? Every day, I try to wake up at a reasonable time, usually between 8 and 9, closer to 8. My morning routine, I don't really have a specific morning routine, but I try to just take it easy. I really enjoy mornings. I'm not necessarily a morning person, but I'm also not necessarily a night person. I'm kind of just, I feel like I'm just in the middle of both. I appreciate both very much. I can wake up very early or I could stay up very late. Not usually on the same day, but um, it just depends on the day, really. And I think I try to carry that mindset into every day for everything. You know, it's good to have routine and stuff, but every day is different. And I think for me, the easiest way to live a calm and content life, which is kind of what I'm always trying to do, is just kind of see how I feel that day and then go accordingly. But in the essence of this question, like generally speaking, in the mornings, I always try and take it easy. I try to assess how I'm feeling. That's not a conscious thing. It's not like a sit down, meditate, how am I feeling kind of thing. It's usually just part of how I treat myself right away in the morning, I guess. I think it's for me, I found it to just kind of, I think I do it because it's like a way for me to give myself some self-care every day, which I think is crucially important for my sake and for everybody's sake, but that just looks different for different people, obviously. I had something good I was gonna say. Let me think for a sec if I can remember it. Can't remember right now. Maybe it'll come back when I'm talking, but yeah, my mornings are slow. I usually give myself at least 2 hours before I'm doing anything, whether that's work or plans. Um, this is, yeah, my mornings have the same kind of mood. The rest of my day actually is kind of up in the air. I'm just sort of realizing I don't really have a routine for the rest of the day. Um, but I think I enjoy that right now. I think I've spent so much of my life in the past being kind of like rigid on routine. Even very recently, I kind of fell back into that of just being too rigid with myself. Of like, okay, I want to do this every day, and then I have this to-do list in my head, and if I can't even get started on it, it makes me kind of numb. Sounds too dramatic, but you know what I mean. Just like makes me not do it. And then I just feel like depressed because it's like, oh, I can't get anything done, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I just try to adapt every day. I think that's, for me, the way that I want to live. And it wasn't who I was for the longest time. But because it was how I wanted to live, I've consciously and subconsciously been practicing how to achieve that and really just be okay with whatever the day brings me. So I'm going to leave it at that for that question. Number 3, what is a current goal of yours? A current goal of mine is to... The first thing that came to mind is a little abstract. It's not concrete, but it very much relates to these interviews. And I guess kind of just what I've been doing the last couple years, making stickers, writing, stuff like that. I just want to figure out, my goal is essentially just how to figure out how to express myself. I have tried so many different things on expression. Of course, I still have so many more to try out, but nothing has really... Well, I mean, things have clicked, absolutely, but I just want to... And I'm not someone who believes that you should only stick to one thing. I think that's stupid. I think the exact opposite. But I also do believe, which I think most people do as well, that you're going to find specific things that fit you the best. You know, by that I mean, I get so much from writing and speaking. And those are skills that you can improve way easier than like technical skills like music and shit, but you know what I mean. I just want to figure out how to express myself in the most genuine and productive way for myself. I don't like that word productive, but I'll use it for the sake of the conversation. I just kind of want to find the glove that fits. And I think I have been finding that out the last few years. And I'm just becoming okay with the fact that things that I've always wanted to do really bad but can't find motivation for, these long-term goals, playing piano, stuff like that. It's just, I think I was trying to force myself because I was like, this is cool. I need to know how to do this. And I'm not saying that will never happen, but I just have to find that. I just have to have that motivation. If I'm motivated to do other things, why would I plug that spigot with trying to learn these other things that I think I'm supposed to be doing, if that makes sense? So I'm kind of just, trial and erroring all these different things. And I'm on that path to figuring out the best way to express myself. I feel very confident about that. I have for a little while, maybe like the last 6 to 10 months, something like that. I have felt very confident that I'm liking what I'm doing. Next question. Do you find value in being personally consistent? Yes, 110%. I don't mean this question since I wrote it. I don't mean this in the most literal way, like consistent being predictable. I mean consistency in terms of integrity, who you are, your values, and do your actions reflect your values all the time? The cliche, like, are you a good person when nobody's looking? I can say 100% for myself, yes, I am. Because I think about that very, very often. Or I used to explicitly. I don't anymore because it's just who I am. But I've worked on this for as long as I can remember. And I'm not trying to be, arrogant. I'm absolutely not perfect. I mean, I have recently, even just this past week, I have just discovered that how not perfect I am, in a self-love sort of way, in a way where it's like I'm confronted with a situation and I'm weighing my mindset, my beliefs, my values against because those are more objective. Those can exist outside of any world in particular. We live in a subjective world, so I'm weighing my values against the reality. It's not this super dramatic thing, but it's just the thought process. It's that volleying back and forth of ideas in order for me to make a decision. And I just think the more lived experience you have, you realize that your objective values aren't really going to always be in line with the action that you end up doing. It doesn't have to go against it. It just might not be like exactly what you would be doing in a perfect world, because we don't live in a perfect world. And I trust myself not to get carried away with that in terms of like, oh, fuck it, nothing matters. I can do whatever I want, and I can always justify it to myself. Because you can justify anything to yourself if you try hard enough. And sometimes you don't even have to try that hard. But the trust I have within myself to never let me get carried away with that is, I mean, I never doubt it for a second. I know myself very, very well. But what I'm saying here is I am not a perfect person, and I've known that, of course, but I'm realizing just how not of a perfect person I am in a very good way. I think that makes me a better person to realize how I actually interact with the world and what I kind of give to it. I'm only fucking 25. I know like a lot of people that I've interviewed are younger than me. A good amount are older too, actually. But no matter where, I mean, we're so fucking young. It's crazy. I think my 30s, that whole decade is gonna be my prime, as I've told many of you before. And I have so much until I even get there. And then when I get there, that's 10 whole fucking years of being in my 30s. I don't want to get too off track, but I definitely got off track. I do find value in being personally consistent. I very much do. And in my case, it's to the point where I like being consistent because I like when other people know what to expect of me. This isn't going against, I love being, I shouldn't say, okay, I'll say, I try to be spontaneous sometimes because that is fun. It's fun to just say like, oh, fuck it, let's do something I've never done before. Let's make something I've never made before. But that's pretty rare. I don't find as much joy in that as a lot of other people I know do. That's not really how I function. Like, it's not really just who I am to the core. I don't get that much out of it. It's not a drag. It's not fun. But I was like, I'm kind of just like, oh, cool. And that's it. I like being consistent to the point. This is a very specific thought that I've had a lot. I like being consistent in my presentation. I guess what I'm thinking about in particular is like my hugs and my smell. I like giving everyone the same amount of hug every hug. Yeah, I don't know. I like trying to be gentle and show you that I'm loving you and stuff like that. I like the same smell for myself for the same reason, for someone to be like, "Oh, it smells like Riley," and not changing that up. You know what I mean? I don't need things to be like associated to me and only me. Of course not. That's silly. But like I think about my cats and like, you know, their sense of smell is so powerful. And there's this weird part of me that's always thought like I don't want to change the way that I smell because I don't want to mess that up for them. You know, as weird as that sounds. I know that's irrational. I know they would probably just get used to the other smell very quickly. But that's just an interesting thought I have in my head. And if I don't feel the need to change my smell, like I really enjoy smelling the same for my cats and my friends. Oh, my boss is calling me. Here, I'm gonna pause this, and then I'll get right back to it. I'm back. That's so funny. I knew he was gonna call. Like before I started this, I was like, "Oh, my boss is for sure gonna call me during this." Anyway, it was only like 7 minutes, so I'm back, and I was talking about being personally consistent. I feel like I've already pretty much finished my thoughts on that, so I'll move on to the next one. What is your favorite thing about yourself? My favorite thing about myself is probably, honestly, I think my consistency. I think that's actually maybe why I put these two questions together. I can't remember. I didn't really have a process for putting these questions together in the order that they were in, just kind of like where it felt right. But maybe that's why it felt right. Funny enough. But I would say my consistency. I take life very, seriously, and that's not a joke. Even though it sounds kind of like a joke, it's definitely not. I'm obviously not like, I feel like I'm still like a very calm and silly person. But I take life very seriously in the way where I don't just think like, fuck it all, nothing matters, whatever. Um, and I don't think those thoughts are even mutually exclusive because, like, sure, nothing does matter. Like, I would also agree with that in a certain way. But I just mean I take life very seriously because it's my life. It's the only thing that I know is a guarantee. Um, and I don't know why I wouldn't take it seriously. I take it seriously to the core, but on the surface, it's not always serious because a lot of things aren't that serious. You know, a lot of things get treated as very serious things, what they aren't. Um, yeah, so I guess when I say life, I mean like the literal act of being alive, the gift of life, the joys of life. Um, I take that very seriously, and I think that's what has brought me my consistency because I think about things very often. I think about my actions before I do them almost all the time, unless it's not really in an environment where I can do that, you know, like sports or something. I don't know, bad example. But my favorite thing about myself is my consistency, um, combined with my outlook on life, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if I need to talk about that more. And I think that's what the only other thought I'm having is like, I think that's why I enjoy other people so much and why other people enjoy me so much is my consistency of that drive to just experience life, and that's not always with other people. A lot of that is actually alone. um or I guess it's sort of like my alone time. A good amount of my alone time is spent experiencing life on my own. I really, really deeply appreciate doing things by myself. I've never had an issue with that. I remember the first time that I think it was like, it was right after my 17th birthday, actually. And I went to go see a rated R movie by myself. And that was really the first time that I kind of realized that, what movie was it? It was like a semi serious one with Jennifer Lawrence, like a kind of cool, suave movie. Um, anyway, that was the first time I realized I really appreciate and love doing things by myself. So, I mean, now routinely I just go to concerts by myself, go out to eat, go to bars by myself, movies by myself, all the time. And it's great. It's really great. Like, I don't know. I don't really make plans with people that often. No, I do. I do. But that's not my first instinct. My first instinct is usually to do something alone. The point of why I even brought this up, let me go back to that, is that I spend a lot of my free time experiencing life for myself, but then the other amount of time that I am by myself, um, is kind of spent reflecting and kind of crafting who I am more. Like, I kind of look at my life, I look at myself kind of like this sculpture, and each thought or each day, each reflection, each kind of, oh, yeah, I want to start doing that more. I want to blah, blah, blah. I kind of want to keep doing it this way. Oh, no, I think differently about this now, and here's why. And this is how I kind of moved on from my previous train of thought about this subject to how I feel about it now, and this is why. It's kind of like I'm a sculpture, and each thought like that is just, just another chisel in the marble. And I'm sure as you get older, those chisels become less and less. But maybe not less frequent, but less, more refined, not less. They become more refined until you get a beautiful sculpture. But yeah, those are I'm losing the point of this question again. But those two aspects of my life are when I'm by myself. But when I'm with other people, and so let me just say quickly, those two aspects of my private life, when I'm by myself, they exist more evenly, 50-50, compared to when I'm with other people. I feel like just naturally you spend more time experiencing life with other people than you do sort of like reflecting or growing with other people. It's less of a 50-50 split, I feel like, at least in my experience. I don't even remember why this related to the question. What is my favorite thing about myself? I don't know. I hope this makes sense when you're listening to it. I'm sorry. I'm going to move on. Let me just say quickly too. These questions reflect who you are when you answer them in that moment and only that moment. You can go back on them, you can change them in the future, whatever. I think I kind of made that clear, or I not made that clear. I tried to make that, I tried to say that when I kind of gave my little spiel before I had you answer these questions, but that's the same for me. I just kind of treat that, I have that mindset for so many different things in my life, like my favorite movies, favorite artists. When I was younger, I used to think like, this has got to be my definitive list forever and it can never change. It's like fucking Mount Rushmore, it's in there forever. But now it's just like when I make my favorite albums list or whatever, it's like, okay, bet this is accurate of how I feel right now, lived up to my life at 25 years old on December 30th, 2021 at 2:17 p.m. It's only accurate up to then. When I revisit this in 10 years, it's probably going to be very different, and these questions will be very different. So that's why I don't really, care if you, or I, for that matter, because I'm the one answering right now, I don't really give a shit if the question is incomplete or whatever. It's really only just sparked by the thoughts that, or I'm really just interested in the thoughts that are sparked by these questions. I think the incomplete question that was more authentic and true to your thought process is infinitely more valuable than a complete sentence, paragraph, period at the end answer to a question like this. So yeah. Next question. How do you view your own life in relation to all other lives? This one I had a hard time wording. And that's why it sounds awkward. This is the only question that I think sounds awkward inherently and can almost be confusing, I guess, or like less specific to how I wanted it to be. But I view my life in relation to all other lives as just that, a life. I view my life similar to a bug's life. I view my life similar to a planet's life. Everything is so relative. If we humans live a good life, we live 80 years. Let's say 80 years. There are some bugs that fucking die in like 2 weeks, born and dead in 2 weeks. Planets old as fuck. How is the Earth? 3.4 billion or something like that. Insane. Fucking crazy. But it's all relative. All these things live and die. They're there and then they aren't, at least in the way that they once were. And the reason why this question sounds awkward is because I've been thinking about it in a way that's not specific to humans, but I do have an answer for humans too. But my more general answer is I think of all life as the same because it's literally just life. Yeah, I don't even think I need to go further than that. I don't know what I would say. So I view it all in a sort of like harmonious, equal sort of way. You know, we're just doing different things. We have different paths, but it's all just life. In a more human to human way. And that's a weird sort of thing because the more human to human way, I find more difference in life than I would with like a bug or a planet. But I think it's because I know what to expect. You know, like bugs are predictable. Planets are so, I mean, they don't really do anything. I mean, they're doing shit all the fucking time. The intricacies of a planet is obviously like immeasurable, incomprehensible. But I think because there's more relatability between humans, obviously, and when there's more differences, you're kind of just like weird. Like I never would have expected another person to think that way. But it's more shocking sometimes, and I feel less relatable to other human lives sometimes. But that's because I'm kind of preoccupied thinking about it in the real life world that we live in, and the world that we've created for ourselves on this world. You know, like the systems, like, oh, recycling comes every 2 weeks. We drive on roads. It's not natural, but we came up with it. And it's dope and it's necessary. But that's kind of where my mindset exists when I think of human to human life rather than when I think of human to non-human life. Because when I think about human to non-human life, it's almost always in that more existential sort of way, which is more important, obviously, or at least more true to like what life really is. But we can't really exist in that world all the time, which is a shame, but you can do that in your own time. And I do that all the time. I'm sure you do too. Anyway, very recently have I started to realize how insignificant I am. In the same sort of self-love, humbling sort of way, I still struggle with thinking that I am so unique and special, and I have so much to give to the world. And I still think those things. I think everybody should think those things. Because just by being in your shoes all the time in your life, you have a lived experience that is infinitely different than everyone else around you or everyone else before you or everyone else that will be born later in the future. I feel that's just objectively true. But those are the intricacies. Like, we are also similar to each other in every single way in the sort of world that we've created for ourselves here on Earth. That I kind of like being a cog in the machine. And I kind of like thinking that, you know, the life that I have in me, that same life is in every other living thing, every other human being on this planet as well. It's kind of the same. And we'll all go back to where we came from at some point as one thing, because it is kind of just one thing. But so those thoughts of feeling like I'm special, I'm unique, and then those new thoughts that I've had recently, the realization that I'm like, I'm really not that special or unique. I'm pretty predictable. You could look at me and you could probably generalize me, and it would probably be more accurate than not. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's just human nature. You know, it's like I do want my appearance to reflect how I behave in the world and what I think. why wouldn't I? I don't want to, I don't know. I don't need to get into that thought, but I think those two things can live in harmony, being special and knowing that you're special and unique, but also being completely okay with just being a cog in the machine. I think that allows for both living life to just be alive. If you want to fucking sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day on your day off, do it. You're still being alive. You're still being stimulated. Anyone who kind of judges you for that is like, I just think it's silly. Of course, if it's unhealthy and you are doing it for the wrong reasons, it's a different story, but I hope you get my point. But giving yourself time and space, allowing yourself to have days like that, while also, I think what I'm trying to say is allowing yourself to do things like that gives you more motivation and inspiration to do these other artistic, creative, existential thinking, furthering my life, developing my brain further, whatever. I think for me, those things living in harmony allows me to do both better, and it's much healthier. I'm going to move on. What do you believe happens when we die? I believe that we all go to the same place. I believe that that place is a good place, where anything is possible. Like literally anything is possible. Obviously, many of those things beyond our human comprehension, but I think we all go back to a place where everything is calm and happy and smiley, and you can be there as long as you want. You can choose to go back into another life if you want. I do believe that you know what you're getting yourself into. At least like the present circumstances of like the world and your parents, and I don't think it's like presented to you in a way that like a homicide detective would present a case to you, like, here are the facts, here's what you need to know. But it's kind of like I was saying earlier, just a glove that fits. You kind of just, oh, okay, I think my ability at living and what I give to the universe would benefit well in this situation. And I think a lot of those things are very, very hard in this world that we live in. You go into life I don't know. That's another tangent that I just don't want to get into right now. Not in a bad way, just because I want to stick to the question. But I believe you can pick and choose what you want to do. And if you want to spend a couple eternities, reliving your past memories from all your past lives, then I think you can do that. And I think these things because that's what I want to happen. So I believe the things that I want to happen. But this is such a huge question that there's no possible right way to be right or wrong. So why wouldn't I just believe what I want? I think it's a very good place. I believe that who I am, what my soul is, Riley Quinlan in this world. Well, I guess Riley Quinlan is more my body, but Riley Quinlan is part of what my soul is now, whatever that name represents. I believe that souls are different, but I believe that life is the same. I believe I'm an individual person that's a part of one infinitely large thing. Similar in a way to how I believe that the mind and body are very separate, but also the same. Yeah. I am excited to die. I'm excited for death. I'm not excited to die. I'm very scared to die, and I want to live as long as I can. But it's kind of exciting to think about what I believe happens when we die, because it sounds like it feels like it would be amazing. But I very much want to live as much as I can still. I want to live to be as old as I can, because I don't think I'll ever be tired of experiencing things, the good and the bad. Next question. Are you a nostalgic person? Very much. I believe that memories are the currency of life, and those are the things that you take with you forever, and you have with you forever. And for all the memories that I've forgotten, I think that's why I want to believe that when we die, we can go back and relive our memories. You know, either like on a movie screen, or go back and relive them in those same shoes. I'm a very nostalgic person, but I don't reflect on nostalgia often. I think when I do, I've done a very good job in my own journey to be present. I don't think I've given myself enough credit for that in the years past, but I feel like I'm so present to the point that I tend to not remember specifics of memories, but I remember the feeling so much. I remember the feeling of memories more than anything. And I often think in feelings and like abstract ideas or shapes, like I guess they turn into abstract shapes or emotions when I'm trying to figure out how to express them. But yeah, I don't often remember the details of a lot of things. I remember emotions more so. And that used to bother me a lot, like in high school. It used to bother me a lot. I used to think about that a lot. I wish I had a better memory, whatever. But then I kind of realized a few years ago, I wrote about this actually. It's one of the things that I wrote about. I think it's in that book that I made last January, almost a whole year ago. But it was essentially just my thoughts about, because it was so like, when I thought it, I was so kind of shook. I was like, oh my God, yes, this is what I want to believe in now. But essentially, it's just, I, Riley Quinlan, in this life, all of my memories from this life, I have lived and experienced. The only reason that they are memories are because I went through it. So even if I don't, excuse me, even if I don't remember, the fucking, if I don't remember the year or the time of the month or who hit that game winning shot or whatever, it doesn't fucking matter, because I already lived through it. And I think that's the most special thing ever. I think that memories are so much more valuable than just the memories that you can recall. If you can't recall a memory, I think that means that you were being present. Of course, it also means that it was just not very stimulating to you, but sometimes it just means that you were being present, and that's why you don't remember it. At least that's kind of how I look at it. But yes, I'm a very nostalgic person, and I think that I think that can coexist just fine with being present. Next question. What does it take to be an artist? To be an artist, I believe the only thing you need is a desire to genuinely express yourself. I think speaking is art. Um, I don't. I think I do genuinely think that everybody has an artist. Everybody is an artist, even in like the smallest things and how you decorate a room. Art. When I hear the word art, like to I want to be an artist all the time, and most of the time I am. Absolutely. Because I'm always trying to figure out ways to genuinely express myself. But it's not in this way where it's like, how can I present this art to people to be viewed or listened to or felt or whatever of the senses that you're trying to stimulate. I think being an artist can be as simple as just like interacting with the world around you, even if you're just like sitting in your chair, lost in thought, trying to figure out how you feel about something. Kind of going, oh yeah, really reflecting, really crafting your lived experiences into expression, or I think even before expression, crafting lived experiences into emotions. Emotions, or I don't know. I think it's intentional. I think it has to be genuine. The art that I like is art that can exist without this man-made world, you know? Like, I guess in the most literal way, I just mean, art doesn't have to be consumed or like have monetary value on it. I think all art is abstract, actually. I mean, of course some is more abstract than others, but there's some level of like being abstract towards all art. There should be, at least. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It takes everything and nothing to be an artist. Who inspires you is the next question. I am inspired all the time by so many different people. If you are listening to this, you inspire me. I am inspired by celebrities, for lack of a better term. Absolutely. And I have no shame in that at all. I don't think there should be any shame in that. I think that it's realistic to not idolize a person, and it's probably more healthy and beneficial to not idolize anyone. But celebrities are, I guess, like celebrities that express themselves, um, which I guess is most. But I guess I'm just talking about like music in particular. I guess I'm only really talking about music, or I guess like the people who inspire me that are celebrities most are musicians. But I'm very much inspired by anyone, really. Um, I'm inspired by people I see on the street, not even for how they look or appear, but for how they walk, for how they pay attention to the things around them, to just watching how they interact with the world. If they take a picture of the sunset, I appreciate that. Stuff like that. I'm really just inspired by ways of living, and expression and what means things to people. I'm seeing this dude outside right now in fucking shorts and a short sleeve shirt, and it's like 15 degrees. That's inspiring. I used to think that was annoying, but like, that's sick as fuck, dude. Like, good for you. Cause who gives a shit? Just do what you want to do. Um, in that same vein, friends inspire me all the time, but really, really, dude, I'm just inspired by everyone. I think the people that I draw the most inspiration from, probably is celebrities that I've consumed a lot. Like, I just printed pictures out recently and put them in my room of people that inspire me. because I just kind of want that energy. The people who I think about a lot and how they live their lives, I'm like, damn, I want to fucking live like that. Let's see. I don't have that many, so I'll just read them off. Lil B, Arca, Lil Ugly Mane, Solange, Bjork, JPEG Mafia, Eves Tumor, Mike, the rapper, Sweet Trip, Kanye, Frank Ocean, Charlie XCX, Andre 3000, and Young Lean. I think that's the people that I have up right now. But yeah, I think it's because I don't know them. I think it's because I've consumed so much of their art. I think it's because they make themselves so accessible and vulnerable, in every way, that it's sort of like, it's just so easy to be inspired by them. You know, you can like go to them for inspiration when you want it, and then they also inspire you when you don't want it. And you could do that with anyone, but it's just so easy because there's no effort. Because with a friend, you know, you got to go to them, and it's more of like a conversation that involves effort. And I don't know, I guess the more I think about it, they're just very different. I guess in my life, I've just been inspired by these people more because I can tap in whenever I want to. But it's not to say that it's the same level, because I would say the opposite is true. I would say in terms of the level of inspiration, I feel more inspired by people that I know, my friends, my close friends, you who are listening to this, who I can see, you know, more intimate details of your personal life than I ever could a celebrity. So the impact is greater with friends, but I think more often I go to celebrities just because of the ease of it all. Yeah. Next question is, what inspires you? Everything. Fucking everything. Not all the time, but really everything. Movies, oh my fucking god. Every time I watch a movie, which is most days, I am inspired just like beyond belief. I think the level of dedication that it takes to make a movie makes it so impactful to me. Yeah, movies are way up there for sure. But really just life. Like if I see something that looks like it was created or expressed genuinely, like if it's man-made, always draw inspiration from that. Nature, of course, just like the crazy fucking ways that the world can be beautiful that you never even knew it could be beautiful before you experienced it. That is just insane. I mean, there's nothing like that. Yeah, I'm able to draw inspiration, I think, from anything. I like that about myself too. Okay, next question. How do you express yourself? I express myself mostly through my words. Most of the time spoken, like this. I like this more than I like writing, I think, because it's like it's as free as you can be as a human, aside from just thinking. But I like writing because it's more, it kind of forces you, or not forces you, but the way that I write, it makes me think about it more, kind of have it be more articulate, and precise. But yeah, words is the main way I express myself. I express myself through expressions. I don't know, clothes, tattoos, a little bit. Most of it is just words, though, really. Yeah, I'm very transparent. I'm willing to talk to most people just about anything. But like not in the, I don't know. Sometimes I find it hard if it feels forced, you know? Like if I'm at a party, bro, if I'm at a party and I'm actually talking to you and I don't know you, I'm probably not going to be talking about some deep shit. At least at first. If it goes that way, that's fine. But I think and I would appreciate that and prefer that. But I'm also not the kind of person who can just walk up and just be like, "Tell me about yourself. Um, why are you this way? What's your favorite thing about life?" I usually don't do that because I just try not. A lot of the times, really, I just try and um, match the vibe. I was gonna say fit in, but that has a negative connotation. But it is kind of like fitting in, um, and I think that's just fine. I prefer it honestly. But I like the way match the vibe feels better. Um, but yeah, that was like a pointless tangent. But my main point was that I have no trouble expressing myself most of the time, pretty much all the time. I just don't really wear it on my sleeve, if that makes sense. But yeah, how do I express myself? Words, spoken and written, absolutely. What is the emotion you feel the most? The emotion I feel the most. I think the emotion I feel the most is the emotion that is often invisible, the emotion that I'm always striving for, which is just being content and calm. I use those two words all the time, and I use them all the time, usually in when I'm telling people what I always am striving for, what I always want to be. Um, and I think I am continuously succeeding in that because the emotion I feel the most is calm and content. But that doesn't mean that it's a success because that's a never ending process. And of course, I don't feel that way like 90% of the time. But in terms of all the other emotions, I feel like it genuinely is calm and content. Moody. Moody's yelling at me for food. If you can hear the meows. Um, I thought about that at first, and I was gonna say like anxious or scared because I think those are the emotions that I feel second most. But no, I don't feel them most of the time. I would be much more of a wreck if I felt those most of the time. Um, that's also not a joke. I'm just thinking out loud because it's a very scary thing to feel those things. It's really the worst thing in the world, and it happens very often, and not just to me, to fucking most other people I know. Some form of anxiety or confusion or scared. Um, but I think the correct answer for me in this situation is calm and content, and I'm grateful for that. I've worked very hard to kind of hold that up. And like I said, it's not an ending thing. It's always going to be that process of juggling emotions and holding up one or the other or holding one close to you. Um but fear arises probably second most, and fear is awful. Fear is terrible. Fear makes me feel like I don't like being alive, but fear teaches you things. Fear allows you to be able to be calm and content more because when you are fearful, you know what to avoid or you know what to work on. And a lot of the times you don't have a fucking choice. It's just going to present itself to you. And a lot of the times you do run away. I run away because it's easier and we're humans and it's kind of like a reflex. But when it comes up enough and when it's, very detrimental to your livelihood, like honestly, I don't want to avoid anything. I don't want to fucking avoid anything. Situations, drugs, whatever. But realistically, you kind of have to, but I kind of think it's like a practice, you know what I mean? When I was sober for 9 months, I kind of realized like I don't want to avoid anything. I don't want to say I'm never going to do this. And I mean that in ways that are like harmless, like ways that only affect me. But when you quote unquote can't do something, when I couldn't drink alcohol, that sucked. It felt like a punishment that I put on myself, and it kind of was. But like, look at me now. My relationship with alcohol is so much different. I don't wake up hungover almost ever anymore. And that's because of the practice that I went through of changing my mindset with it, of abstaining. But my point here is that after that, I kind of realized, like, I don't ever want to completely shut the door on anything. Again, I don't think. Because I always just want to, like I said at the very beginning, I want to wake up that day and figure out how I'm feeling and go about it in that way. Psychedelics scare the shit out of me. I haven't done them in almost 2 years. And even before that, it's been very sporadic. I've done LSD and mushrooms a combined time of less than 10 times. But they're scary. But I don't ever want to say, I'm never doing them again. I'm never doing these things again. Because, oh my God, as scary as they are, there's nothing like it. The way that you can experience things in a different way that you didn't even know was possible, it's baffling. With alcohol, like, it's so much fun. It's awful for you, yeah, but it's like, it's so much fun. You bond with people, you loosen up with people. That's just the truth. I don't give a fuck if someone says like, oh, like, I wish everyone could just be open and free all the time without alcohol. And it's like, I do too, bro. I kind of can. I've worked on this. That sounded like a brag. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it in that way, and it's beside the point. What I'm saying is, I want that too. I wish everyone could also be that way. And even in that brag, it's not 100% true because, of course, it can't be. I'm not always that way. Anyway, I would like that to be the reality too, where everyone could be open and free, but it's not. And alcohol loosens people up. That's the truth. It's probably going to be that way forever. So there's good and bads to everything. And I don't want to shut the door on anything ever again, I don't think. But this is way off the question. What was I even talking about that got me there? I was talking about fear, I think. Yeah. Hopefully that ties in better somehow. I can't make it tie right now. But yeah. Emotion I feel the most, final answer, calm and content. It's like you know how like lemon and lime is a flavor, but like lemon lime is also a flavor? Like calm and content. That's my lemon lime. It's like one emotion, but those are like the two words that make it that emotion. Next question, what do you do with that emotion when you feel it? I appreciate it. oftentimes, probably most of the time, if I'm being realistic, I am not consciously aware that I'm feeling it, but I think that's a blessing. I think that's a gift. Um, but when I am conscious of it, I appreciate it and I reflect on why I'm feeling this way in a healthy sort of like self-respect sort of way, like like today or like recently, like I feel calm and content in the mornings because I'm not drinking coffee. That's a very good example because coffee was kind of making me anxious again, so I stopped. Excuse me. Um but things like that. I feel calm and content today because I woke up early. I didn't drink last night. I made my bed and I have a whole day in front of me. Kind of things like that, like affirmation, I guess. For the sake of the question too, I will say it for the second most emotion too, like fear. Um, what do I do when I feel it? I try very hard to sit with it, but it's not always easy. And even when it's never easy actually. Even when I'm consciously thinking that I can be feeling this thing and I can consciously think, okay, I am feeling this emotion that I hate. I am feeling fear of being alive. Something triggered that. Let me figure out, let me sit here and breathe and think about what that is and be okay with it. Bring it into my mind, watch it dissolve, have it be gone. Boom. I can think all those things, but it doesn't always work. Most of the time, it doesn't work, I would say. But that's practice. It's not some equation that's going to give you the right answer every time. It's just about practice. So, most of the time, truthfully, I probably run away to some degree. But I usually always try and at least think, how can I work with this right now? It's just a process. So, everything is just practice all the time. Always try to get better at everything. Next question, what makes you cry? Many things. I cry almost all of the time when I'm by myself. Um, I think I've known this for a little while, but it's kind of hard for me to be extremely vulnerable to the point where, and I think this is true for everyone, but I only know my own experience. But my vulnerability, me being 100% vulnerable, is tough. And it's something that I can't do even by myself all the time. I don't know. I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that's the reality of the life that I'm living in right now. That's just how I am. I don't know. It takes a lot for me to be like 100% vulnerable. So with another person, of course, vulnerability has levels and layers. With another person, though, I don't think I've ever been as vulnerable with another person as I'm capable of, like when I'm by myself. And I don't know if that's true for everyone, actually. I think that's an interesting question to ask. Um, my most vulnerable is when I'm by myself. I think it always will be. Again, I don't think that's a good or bad thing. I just think that's who I am. But when I'm by myself, a lot of things make me cry. Movies make me cry. YouTube videos make me cry. Songs make me cry. There are very specific things that I witness that make me cry just from people doing them. Kind acts that go unnoticed make me cry. I always have this weird soft spot, like, and this, it can relate to many different things, but the thing that always makes me think of this emotion, um, is like in a movie or show when like a little kid who's like a little chubby and has glasses or something, and his glasses breaks. Um, that always makes me cry too. Things kind of in that nature. Children make me cry. Um, I think most of my tears are not. They're not sad tears. They're not frustrated tears, but they're also not joyous tears. Um, most of my tears are really just kind of like they're kind of like nostalgic tears, or like, actually I think they're just empathetic tears. Like, yeah, just empathy. Empathy makes me cry. Um yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Just empathy makes me cry. And when I say cry, most of the time, it's just, like welling up, like kind of like that feeling, and like you might get a little teary eyed. Welling up is kind of what I mean when I say cry. I'm also absolutely not the kind of person to judge emotion by tears. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. I've thought that for my whole life. Um, if someone measures emotions in tears, I think that they are probably very surface level and not realistic. Like, like if someone's like trying to brag that they cried, like, oh yeah, that totally made me cry. Oh, that made me cry. Did you cry? Oh, you didn't. How could you not cry? Shit like that. That pisses me off. Um, I just asked this question because it's, like crying is a very specific emotion or a specific action because of emotions. And I'm just very interested to hear what people have to say. But I'm not, no, never judge the severity of emotion on tears. Um, I just remembered the last time I like sobbed was watching a Lil B interview. Um, just like a couple weeks ago, actually, and I had seen it before. This is the second time seeing it. But his outlook on life, man, is just so precious, and it's very, very similar to my own. I know people joke about Lil B all the time. He's a funny dude, and he embraces it. But like, being based, like that is a real fucking mindset. And I like subscribe, like, what am I trying to say? Subscribe to that, I guess. I appreciate like the based lifestyle and mindset so truly and deeply. Like, it is fun. It's so fun and funny to just say based, or like, oh, that's based. But like, it's a real thing. And the way that he describes it is just so wholesome. I read his book. His book made me cry. Um, but this Lil B interview, he was just talking about his fucking mindset. And I don't know what came over me. It's just this emotion. I paused the video and I just put my head down on my desk and I just like wept for a few minutes because it was so beautiful. But again, I wouldn't even say that those were like joyous tears. They were like empathy tears. Like, it's just this emotion that just washes over you. I don't know. It feels good though. Okay, next question. Do you want children? Um, so hard to answer. I always thought that I would have kids, and then a few years ago I realized I didn't have to, and then I said, no, I'm not having kids. Um, Moody's trying to cuddle. Um, but then I started like the past, I don't know, half year to a year, kind of started thinking like, damn, it'd be fucking awesome to have kids. but only part of it, because the other part of it is super fucking hard. I can only imagine. So I don't know. If I had to pick, I'd say no, because I need to be 100% sure if I am like trying to have a kid. And I guess trying would be me wanting to have kids. So, do I want children? If I had to answer, no. But I could see it happening, absolutely. Next question. What is the most important part about being alive to you? Plain and simple, experiencing life. Having emotions, having reactions, um, interacting with the world around you. I think first and foremost of the interactions that I'm talking about is relationships. Deep relationships, of course, but like literally, bro, I'm talking about relationships with strangers that you will never see again. Holding a door open for someone, that's like the most cliche, like kind gesture. And it goes a long fucking way because it says a lot about you. It says a lot about what you want in the world. It says a lot about the energy that you give off. Yeah, and I feel like it's so common that a lot of the times you just say thank you and move on and you don't think about it. It's not like a, oh my God, stop dead in your tracks. Like, you're holding the door open for me? Like, how can I repay you? Blah, blah, blah. I'm so shocked, like everyone should be like you. It's so common that it's just kind of like you say thank you and you walk in the door and you don't even remember what they looked like. But you should always be that person, always. If you're in the right space for it, like the right headspace, the right mindset, if you feel good enough that day. Don't put the pressure on yourself to always do that, but yeah. And that's what I mean by relationships. Relationships can last from one lifetime to 1 second, like truthfully. But yeah, most important thing I really think is just experiencing life, emotions, growing, whatever that means to you, even if it's just physically. Yeah. Being alive, the meaning of life is just to experience life. That's it. It's not that complicated. No one can experience life the wrong way. You experiencing life is enough. You waking up that day and living another day is good enough. Whether you're existing, you're literally just existing. If you fucking laid in bed all day and stared at the wall, that's what life is about. Just being alive. And not to get too off topic, but I just also believe so strongly in this too. If being alive is a victory, if that's what you want it to be, but life is a choice. You did not choose to be born, but you can choose to not be alive, through many different ways. And life is not kind. The life that we know is not kind to everyone. If you want, I don't know. If you want to talk about this more ever, we can talk about it more. But what I'll just say for now is like, life is entirely up to you. However you want to live it. And I know life is just so difficult for some people. I just don't like, okay, what I'm trying to say is I hate the idea that people push onto others that, life is happy. Oh, be happy you're alive. That's like a fuck you, bro. Like, you don't know what that person is going through. Maybe that person doesn't want to be alive. And it's just it's kind of naive to think that way. I think that way for myself and only myself because I can't project my feelings towards life on anybody else. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But just experiencing life. That's my answer to the question. Next one is, how often do you feel regret for your actions? Almost never. But I make a lot of mistakes. There are things that I wish I didn't do. I just think my way of regret is sort of like I go through regret immediately, and it's very quick to where if it's like, fuck, I wish I didn't do that, it's just that. It's, fuck, I regret that I did that for this second, but then I'm immediately just back in reality in a way where it's like, all right, I fucked up, but this is where I'm at now. How do I go forward? And I spend all my energy going forward because usually if you regret something, you kind of got to fix something in some way. There are some things you can't fix, but you can make better, even if it's just time. But yeah, my regret happens instantly to me. It's not this huge thing that I think about all the time forever. I don't think I have any regrets that will last me forever. I have lessons that I've learned that I will remember forever, and those have involved regret. But regret to me is wasted energy. So that's how I feel about it. And honestly, even that small regret that I was just talking about, I don't feel it that often. I think about my actions a lot before I do them. But of course, everyone makes mistakes, as Hannah Montana once said. So I do feel regret, but not that often. And it's small. How do you feel about another calendar year coming and going? I am stoked. I love calendar years coming and going. Time is just that. It's always going to happen. And yes, a calendar year is very arbitrary. But there's a lot of meaning in it in terms of society, and I put meaning into it. So I'm very excited about them. I like the passing of time. You can't stop the passing of time. I mean, the passing of time is just the present happening forever. It's essentially just how much presence you've experienced. But I like these sort of like milestones where I can think, this is a great opportunity for me to try something new, try and continue a new goal of mine, a new practice, stuff like that. It's a really good excuse to just try. And I think that's why I like it so much. I like getting older. I'm sure that will cap out at some point. Actually, I'm not sure of that. I really like getting older, and every day you have new experiences, even if they're just slightly varied experiences of the same thing that happens every day. They're different experiences for you to put in your pocket, and that's wisdom. Like, old people are really wise if they want to be, and they're not fucking bigots. But the amount of experience that old people have is insane. It's insane. I like the passing of time. I like calendar years coming and going. I'm excited for it. I'm actually, after this, not immediately after this, I'm going to eat after this, but I'm going to do a couple things about this upcoming year. Figure out, they're not really New Year's resolutions, but they're kind of like things that I do like every week or every month in a year. I don't know, whatever. But I'm going to do that after this in a little bit. So I find them exciting. Okay. How do you feel right now after being asked these questions? After being asked these questions, I feel fantastic. I love just speaking. speaking for fucking almost an hour and a half already, just straight, is incredible. And I've told this to some of you that have answered these questions already, but I didn't think this explicitly, but I've started to kind of realize it while these interviews have been going on. But when I went on my road trip 2 months ago, almost 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago, yeah. When I went on my road trip and I started doing my voice memos and speaking to myself out loud without anyone else there to talk to me. You know, I love conversation almost more than anything else in the world, but sometimes I just want to talk, and I'm not one to talk over people. I'm also not one to sacrifice being polite to just fucking talk and go on my own sort of selfish tangent, but that's what this is like allowing myself to be, or that's what it was back then too, the voice memos that I started doing. It was allowing myself to be selfish enough to speak uninterrupted, however long I wanted to, in whatever direction I wanted to, only for the sake of myself. It started as sort of like a anxiety reliever, getting these weird thoughts out of my head and speaking about them, and then just kind of speaking about whatever I wanted, stream of consciousness type shit. But I appreciated that so much that I did fucking 40 different voice memos of myself talking. And I can't remember how long it was, but I think it was around like 10 hours or something of audio. And it was just incredible. But I think I didn't explicitly think this, but when I started kind of making these interviews, or when I decided that I wanted to have these interviews, and like I tell you before you start, it's not a conversation. That's the key. I don't want it to be a conversation. I want to literally hand you the mic that I'm holding right now, and I just want to hear your thoughts. I want to see how you think about things. I want to see how your brain takes you from one thought to another. It's just so intriguing to me, and I just found so much benefit from that. And this is such a new thing for me too. I mean, like I just said, like 2.5 months. That's it. But this is like a tool that I'm gonna use for the rest of my life now. And I just really want to see how other people take that as well. The reason I asked this question is because I'm just curious if you feel similar to how I do. If you find it to be sort of a tool for you as well. It's just out of curiosity. But yeah, that's how I feel. Is there anything else you would like to say about yourself that didn't happen to get brought up by these questions? This is the last question. Let me think. I guess the only thing is I don't expect you to listen to this whole thing. I'm sure some of you will, but I really am only doing this. First and foremost, I was gonna do this for myself already, to reflect on my own thoughts. I was gonna answer these questions myself already. I was gonna record them the same way. I wasn't thinking about sending them out to you though. But then once I started doing these interviews, I realized pretty quickly, like, just out of principle, it would feel kind of weird to me if I just asked you all these questions that are like, like meaningful and like vulnerable and, I don't know, specific to who you are. It would feel kind of wrong if I just I got these answers and I fucking dipped like peace. Thanks, see ya. Obviously not like I'm gonna shut the door on you after I get these. I don't even fucking know what I'm gonna do with these yet. But what I'm trying to say is I decided it would be fair to send these to you as well. And I think that's just the right way to do it. So I don't expect you to listen to this whole thing. I don't expect you to listen to this at all, to be honest. But it's here if you want it. And as I say that, I'm realizing a thought that I've had before is really that's how I want to exist. That is how I want to express myself. I want to express myself completely genuinely, without fear of judgment or anything along those lines. And I want my expressions to exist behind an open door that you can always walk into whenever you want to. I want to take up space, but only in the space that is appropriate for me to take up. I don't want to shout over people. I don't want to, throw myself in a room where people don't give a shit about what I have to say, because that's reality. But I just want so desperately, if not just for myself, to express and for that expression to exist somewhere. Because I have found inspiration in the most random things. And if someone comes across an expression of mine and it moves them in some way, that's all I want. Aside from the selfish reasons of trying to grow myself, if I'm thinking of my expressions in terms of other people, that's all I want. I just want to impact someone and maybe help them along in one little aspect of their growth, because I really have just been helped beyond belief in the smallest of ways. And again, if you're reading this, if you're listening to this, you are absolutely one of those people who has helped me in my growth way more than you probably realize. If I'm impacted by fucking everyone and I just asked you to do this, like, you're probably pretty special, and you are special, and I love you. So thank you very much. To the people I have interviewed, thank you for allowing me to do this. And to the people I will interview, I very much look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you. Goodbye.